Will you be like the many who live in the shadow of debt, or will you walk the sunlit path of the wealthy? That question lies at the heart of George S. Clason's 1926 masterpiece, The Richest Man in Babylon. Despite being written a century ago, this book remains the gold standard for financial literacy. Clason, an author and businessman, realized that while the world changes, the laws of gold are as immutable as the stars. By the end of this deep dive, you aren't just going to have a summary, you're going to have a blueprint for wealth that has survived empires. Let's step back in time to the dust and gold of ancient Babylon to see how these lessons apply to your bank account today. Chapter 1: The Man Who Desired Gold. The story begins with Bansir, a chariot builder, and Kabi, a musician. Despite living in the wealthiest city in the world, they are broke. They work hard, yet their purses are empty. They realize that working hard isn't enough, they need a system. This chapter strikes a chord because most of us feel like Bansir sometimes, running on a hamster wheel, wondering where the paycheck went. The duo decides to visit their childhood friend, Arkad, who has become the richest man in Babylon. The lesson here is profound, seeking wisdom from those who have already achieved what you want. Instead of complaining about their luck, they seek a mentor. In real life, this is the difference between asking your broke cousin for stock tips or reading a book by a billionaire. Chapter 2: The Richest Man in Babylon. This is where the transformation begins. Arkad doesn't just give a lecture, he tells a story of failure and persistence. He recalls his days as a scribe, carving clay tablets until his back ached and his eyes grew weary. When he asks Algamish for the secret to wealth, the old man gives him a truth that sounds almost too simple: a part of all you earn is yours to keep. Arkad's first attempt at this was a disaster. He saved his money for a year and then gave it to a brickmaker to buy rare jewels from distant lands. The brickmaker, knowing nothing of jewels, was swindled and bought glass instead. Algamish laughed and told him, "Why trust a brickmaker about jewels? Would you go to a baker to ask about the stars?" The lesson: this is the mistake we all make. We take investment advice from people who aren't experts. We ask a coworker about stocks or a broke friend about real estate. Arkad had to learn that saving the money is only step 1. Step 2 is protecting it by seeking wise counsel. Think about your own life. When you get your paycheck, who gets paid first? The electric company? The grocery store? Netflix? By the time you get to you, there's nothing left. Arkad argues that you should be your own most important bill. If you can't live on 90% of what you make, you won't be able to live on 100% either, because your desires will always grow to meet your income. This chapter teaches us the power of the compound, not just of money, but of discipline. It's about the psychological shift from being a consumer to being an owner. Chapter 3: 7 Cures for a Lean Purse. Arkad is commanded by the king to teach the city how to be wealthy. He outlines 7 specific cures. Start thy purse to fattening, save 10%, control thy expenditures, don't confuse necessary expenses with desires. Make thy gold multiply, invest the savings so they earn interest, guard thy treasures from loss, avoid get-rich-quick schemes, make of thy dwelling a profitable investment, own your home, ensure a future income, plan for retirement, increase thy ability to earn, become smarter and more skilled. Imagine applying this today, cutting out one subscription, control expenditures, and putting that into an index fund. Make thy gold multiply. It's simple, but as Arkad says, the truth is always simple. Chapter 4: Meet the Goddess of Good Luck. This chapter is a fascinating psychological study. In the Temple of Learning, Arkad and a group of men debate whether luck is a matter of chance or something that can be lured. They talk about the man who finds a purse of gold or the gambler at the racing tracks. But Arkad points out that luck from gambling is fleeting, it rarely stays with the winner. True good luck, Clason argues, is actually a synonym for opportunity. He tells the story of a young man who had the chance to buy a fine pasture of land, but he haggled too long over the price and lost it to another. We've all been there, that I should have bought Bitcoin in 2011 or I should have started that business moments. The lesson: we often mistake our own procrastination for bad luck. We wait for the perfect time to invest or the perfect time to start a side hustle. But the goddess of luck is a fickle deity who only stays with those who take decisive action. To implement this today, you have to realize that luck is a numbers game. The more you save, the more lucky opportunities you can afford to say yes to. If a great deal on a house comes up and you have the down payment ready because of your 10% savings habit, people will call you lucky. In reality, you were just prepared. Luck is the moment when your preparation meets a fleeting window of opportunity. Don't be the person standing on the sidelines wondering why others are getting all the breaks. Chapter 5: The 5 Laws of Gold. Arkad's son, Macer, is given gold and a tablet with the 5 laws to prove he can handle an inheritance. He loses the gold first but wins it back using the laws. Gold comes to those who save 10%, gold labors diligently for the wise owner, gold clings to the cautious owner, gold slips away from the man who invests in things he doesn't understand. Gold flees the man who follows the advice of tricksters. Think of Law 4. How many people lost money in crypto because they didn't understand it? The laws of Babylon are still protecting, or punishing, investors today. Chapter 6: The Gold Lender of Babylon. Rotten the Spearmaker receives 50 pieces of gold and seeks advice from Mathan, the gold lender. Mathan gives a vital lesson on boundaries. If you lend money to a friend to help them, ensure you don't take on their burden yourself. In modern terms, don't co-sign a loan for someone who is bad with money. Help people in ways that don't ruin your own financial foundation. As Mathan says, a little caution is better than a great regret. Chapter 7: The Walls of Babylon. This chapter describes the siege of Babylon. While the enemy battered the gates, the citizens felt safe because the walls were strong. This is a metaphor for insurance and emergency funds. You need walls around your life, savings, insurance, and diversified income, so that when the enemy, job loss, illness, or recession strikes, your family remains secure. Chapter 8: The Camel Trader of Babylon. This is perhaps the most emotional chapter in the book. Dabasir, the camel trader, wasn't always successful. He was once a man who lived beyond his means, fell into deep debt, and eventually fled Babylon in shame. He ended up being captured and sold into slavery. Imagine that, from a free man with a wife and a home to a slave tending camels in the desert. His turning point came when his master's wife asked him if he had the soul of a free man or the soul of a slave. A slave blames his circumstances, a free man takes responsibility for his debts, even if it takes a lifetime to pay them back. Dabasir escaped, returned to Babylon, and faced the people he owed money to. Many of us feel like slaves to our credit card debt or student loans. It's a heavy, soul-crushing weight. Dabasir's plan isn't just a math formula, it's a psychological recovery plan. 10% goes to your future, this gives you hope. 20% goes to your creditors, this gives you integrity. 70% goes to your life, this gives you boundaries. By paying himself 10% while paying back his debts, Dabasir regained his self-respect. If you wait until all your debts are gone to start saving, you'll have the soul of a slave for years. But if you save even $10 while paying back $20 of debt, you are building the muscles of a wealthy person. It's about proving to yourself that you are the master of your coins, not the other way around. Chapter 9: The Clay Tablets from Babylon. This chapter is presented as a letter from a modern archaeology professor who found Dabasir's tablets and applied his 70-20-10 rule to his own life in the 1930s. It worked for him just as it worked in 2300 BC. It proves that the math of wealth doesn't change with technology. Whether it's clay tablets or a banking app, the percentages remain the key to freedom. Chapter 10: The Luckiest Man in Babylon. Sharanada, a wealthy merchant, tells a story to the grandson of his late partner. He explains that work is the best friend he ever had. While others saw work as a burden, Shara saw it as the vehicle to his freedom. When you embrace your career or business with passion and diligence, you attract mentors and opportunities. Work isn't a necessary evil, it is the foundation of the luck we talked about earlier. Chapter 11: A Historical Sketch of Babylon. This closing chapter serves as a powerful "wait, this actually happened" moment. Clason reminds us that Babylon was located in an arid, desolate valley. It had no forests, no mines, and no natural stone. It became the wealthiest city in the ancient world purely through the ingenuity and financial discipline of its people. They built massive irrigation systems to turn the desert into a garden. They built walls so strong they were considered wonders of the world. But more importantly, they built a culture of commerce and trust. When Babylon eventually fell, it wasn't because their financial laws failed, but because later generations grew soft and forgot the discipline of their ancestors. The lesson: this is a warning for us today. Wealth is not a permanent state, it's a practice. You can live in the wealthiest country in the world and still be poor if you don't understand the laws of gold. Conversely, you can start with nothing in a desert of a town and build an empire if you apply these rules. The history of Babylon proves that human capital, your skills, your discipline, and your knowledge, is the most valuable asset you have. The gold and the buildings can be destroyed, but the knowledge of how to build wealth is immortal. As you finish this summary, remember that you are now a citizen of modern Babylon. The tools are in your hands. Will you build a garden, or will you let your fields go dry? If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to BloomShelf Hub. We are dedicated to bringing you the timeless wisdom of the world's greatest books, helping you bloom into the best version of yourself, one chapter at a time. Stay tuned for our next deep dive. Your future self will thank you for it.